We're here in the park in Sun Moon Lake under these gorgeous sakura trees which are blossoming right now in beautiful pink colors all over to talk about this month's brewing tips for Ruby Red Hongyu. So this month's tea, Ruby Red, could be brewed in a bowl or in a side handle pot, but we wanted to talk about leaves in a bowl and give you some brewing tips for leaves in a bowl, which is one of the questions that many of you email us about. Now, leaves in a bowl really is the oldest tea brewing method and the simplest. People often ask us the differences between the three kinds of bowl tea: leaves in a bowl, side handle pot, and boiled tea. A long time ago, all tea processing was very, very simple. And so you could just take leaves and put them in the bowl and add water, and that kind of applied to all tea. Tea was wild, it wasn't even domesticated. Some people also boiled tea and put that into a bowl. But nowadays, we have this huge variety of tea that just erupted in the last 300 years. And so there's so many new kinds of tea. And not all of it works as leaves in a bowl. Some of it has little small buds and you'd be spitting them out, or it's compressed and it would be too strong and bitter. So we need to steep tea. But we needed a way that we could steep tea without adding teaware, without adding complication, that's still accessible and easy. So we looked to the oldest teapot, which is the side handle pot. This is the pot that was used actually to boil Chinese medicine for thousands of years, these side handle pots. And we started using those to steep tea so that we could have steeped tea, but we could also have all the different kinds of tea in the world brewed with the simplicity of bowl tea. Because bowl tea, as we've discussed, is about simplicity. It's about meditation. It's about ceremony. It's also about equanimity. It's about letting go of quality. It's about flipping off that switch of better and worse. The tea just is what it is. It's not too hot or too cold or bitter or strong. You just let go of all the parameters and sit with the tea meditatively and let it be what it is. This is really important because in the beginning, this makes tea more accessible. And it also allows you to start to develop some of the spiritual communication that needs to happen between you and nature through tea as plant medicine. But then as we progress and learn skills and learn Gong Fu and start to master tea, this method of simplicity helps us to let go of our pretensions, to let go of all of the quality and pickiness in us, which then facilitates communication between people, because sometimes you go and have tea with people who aren't tea people and they don't know how to properly brew, and it doesn't matter because they are using tea as a form of hospitality to open their door and their home and their heart to you, and you come in and you sit down, and if you're thinking in your head, oh, they're brewing it improperly or they could be brewing it better, you're kind of missing the point, because they've invited you to their home to share tea, not to demonstrate their tea brewing skills. So I want to be able to turn off all of my skill, all of my pretension, and go back to the real simple essence of what tea is, which is just leaves, heat, and water. Though leaves in a bowl is a very simple kind of tea, and you can just let go and just put some leaves in a bowl and add water, and it really is that simple. There are a few brewing tips that I can share with you that will help you to serve this kind of tea for others, and do so with a little bit more skill. But we have to start by remembering that bowl tea really isn't about skill. It's not Gong Fu tea. Bowl tea is about leaves, heat, and water. It's about meditation. It's about sacred ceremony. So the heart that you put into it is really everything. Nevertheless, there are a few brewing tips that will help you. In this video, we're going to talk about 3 small tips that will help you to make better leaves in a bowl tea. The first tip is about rinsing the bowl, rinsing teaware. And this actually applies to all 3 kinds of bowl tea. It's a useful skill to know how to rinse the teaware. One of the questions we're often asked at the Tea Sage Hut is, why do we rinse the teaware? By cleaning the teaware in front of your guests as opposed to before they arrive, you're respecting them. You're showing them that everything here is clean. But then there's also the spiritual purification of all the things that you're using. For many centuries in Chinese culture, dust has become associated with things of the world, right? So to become a monk is called shaking off the dust. This is because cities were unpaved and of course very dusty, and monks and nuns lived in the mountains as hermits. And so washing the teaware is like rinsing off the dust. In the tea space, we all set down our egos. We're all kind of like monks and nuns who have had a little bit of a temporary ordination, in the sense that in this space, it doesn't matter who's higher or lower class. It doesn't matter what job you do, who has more money. It doesn't matter about your gender. We're all here to share a heart space together, and in this space we're all equal. So we're washing off of all of our worldly concerns and affairs, setting them down. Without any advice from the Chinese, the Europeans figured this out on their own, that tea isn't just a beverage or a medicine, it's also a time to set down your work, set down your worldly affairs, and be with people you love and connect. So washing the teaware does that. We also wash the teaware to wash off past tea sessions. There's something inside of us that makes it difficult sometimes to be present, to fulfill that one encounter, one chance, yi cha yi hui. To know that this tea will never be this tea again. Even if you buy these leaves and you take them home and you brew them 50 times, it will never be this bowl again. And we have to appreciate that, because sometimes we can drink a red tea, for example, and we can say, oh wow, this is a great red tea. And that makes us think of another great red tea we had in the past. And then we start thinking or talking about that red tea and missing the beautiful red tea in front of us. The red tea that we ourselves just said was so great. The one that reminded us of the past one in the first place. We don't want to miss that. So we're washing off past tea sessions so that we stay more focused and present. So there's really only one practical skill related to washing the bowl, and it actually applies to all bowl tea, and it also applies to cups in gongfu tea, so it's very useful. When we wash the bowl, we want to rinse out the inside of the bowl, the lip, and the outside of the lip. So we want to rinse the inside and the outside of the bowl. We want to rinse all the way around, everywhere that our guests would possibly touch with their mouth. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put the bowl into our left hand, into our offhand. So if you're right-handed, this would be the left hand. If you're left-handed, this would be the right hand. We're going to put it into our offhand. And our offhand is kind of like the fork of a bicycle wheel. So we're going to make a fork of a bicycle wheel with it and put it right in that fork like it's a bicycle wheel. And then we're going to spin it with the other hand. The spinning takes some practice because you don't want to spin too fast or too slow. If you spin too slow, the water will run down and burn your hand. If you spin too fast, it will just fly out and it won't travel over the lip and wash the outside of the rim of the bowl as well. So we want to wash the inside and the outside. So we have to move at just the right speed, not too fast, not too slow. And we keep the bowl at like a 45-degree angle and just spin it through that bicycle fork. And you'll know when you've gone all the way around because you'll feel the wetness of the bowl. And at that point, you can push your palm into the bottom of the bowl and just shake out the last of the water. We like also to pick the bowl up and bring it to our heart and then rinse it and then bring it back to our heart and then set it down before picking up the next bowl. The second brewing tip for leaves in a bowl has to do with putting the leaves into the bowl. Now, a lot of people complain that, hey, when I drink leaves in a bowl of tea, sometimes I get little bits in the bowl and the little bits get in my mouth and spitting. Well, there's an easy way to prevent that from happening. So you put the leaves that you're going to serve in that session in a bowl like this one, and what you're going to want to do is pinch them with 3 or 4 fingers, pinch them, and very loosely kind of shake them, and the little smaller leaves will fall out, and what you'll be left with is just a pinch of the bigger, longer leaves. So you grab with either 3 fingers in your thumb, or you could use even 2 fingers in your thumb. I like to use 3 fingers in my thumb. So I pinch and roll the leaves in my fingers, and the little bits fall off, and I'm left only with large leaves, which open up beautifully and stay in the bowl. So the third brewing tip for leaves in a bowl tea has to do with adding water. When we add water to the bowl, we want the leaves to spin around, and not spin around horizontally like this. You actually want them to spin more at like a 45-degree angle like this. What this does is, in the first steeping, it pulls the leaves under the water so that they all get wet and start steeping, as opposed to some of them floating and taking a long time to start steeping, and then maybe the bowl could become bitter or too strong. And in later steepings, when you pour like this, it lifts the leaves off the bottom of the bowl. So it lifts them, they're stuck after the bowl has been drunk, the leaves are kind of stuck to the bottom, and when we pour in this way, the leaves roll around. Remember, we don't pour the water, we place the water. So move the kettle around and find the place on the inside wall of the bowl where the leaves start to spin, not in a horizontal way, but 45 degrees like this. And then when you find that spot, use your index finger here on the handle of the kettle and dip down and increase the flow. I like to say turn on the gas. So find the spot and then turn on the gas. Find the spot where the leaves start to spin and turn on the gas, and they'll really start going. We hope these 3 practical tips that we've been over today help you to improve your leaves in a bowl tea brewing. But we also want to remind you that leaves in a bowl tea brewing is the most accessible kind of tea brewing because you can let go of all practicalities. You just put some leaves in a bowl and add some water and relax into a meditative space. So this month, as we all take some ruby red and put it in a bowl and relax into an equanimous, peaceful sense of tranquility, let's remember that love is changing the world bowl by bowl.